Are you wondering how soon you can get pregnant once you're off the birth control pill? Or maybe you're wondering when you should stop birth control and what you should know when you are ready to get pregnant once you get off of it. In today's video, you're going to learn all you need to know about getting pregnant after being on birth control. What to expect when you get off of it, how to clean your body from all of those hormones, and how to prepare to start the journey with all the tools that you need to get pregnant faster. To make things easier, I created this free guide called 7 Steps to Empower Your Fertility that you can download and use to get started creating your own fertility plan. I'll leave the link in the description below for you. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Marc Sklar, and I've been helping couples get pregnant for over 21 years. Now that we're officially friends, let's get started. Some of you watching might think that the use of birth control in general is a standard medical practice. And it is. But the question I have is it the right way to approach our hormone regulation and supporting reproductive issues for young women or women in their 20s, even into their 30s? I do think that there is a place for birth control overall, but I think we need to question that a little bit more than we actually have. So as we are contemplating how do we manage our fertility when we're trying to come off birth control, I think we need to understand why birth control is used first and foremost. And then you all can make the decision if you think you should be on it and how you're going to use it. So I think the first question we need to ask ourselves is, why does someone start using birth control? Well, the first reason that I can think of that would make the most sense is it's called birth control for a reason. And so if you are sexually active and you want to assure that you are not going to have a child and you're young and you're not ready to start a family, then this would be the first reason why your OB would recommend that you start using birth control. Now, are there other ways that you can manage that piece, right? That you don't want to conceive? 100% there are. First and foremost, if you are sexually active, I think you 100% need to also consider that that burden is not just on you, it's on your partner at that time. And you all could work together to make sure that you don't conceive a child that you're not ready for. And so that would mean using condoms on his part or timing appropriately. I know that many of you believe or have been taught that you can get pregnant at the look of your boyfriend, right? When you're younger. That's not really the case. You're ovulating at a specific time of your cycle, and you have a short window of time where you can actually conceive. And so the same planning and tracking that we use to get pregnant, you can use to avoid it. So you would just be careful in your fertile window, and maybe you don't have intercourse during that time, or you use other methods where you're just more careful during that time, right? This is where understanding your body and understanding ovulation is really important. So that is one of the first and main reasons why you might be put on birth control, and I want you to know that there are other options. You do have to be responsible enough to manage those other options, and that is something to talk about with your family, your partner, and see if that makes sense for you guys together. 2 other reasons that you might be put on birth control. One is to regulate your menstrual cycle, or because you have some sort of hormonal or reproductive issue that your OBGYN believes that birth control would be the best option for you. I will question those 2 things. I'm not saying that there's not an issue if you're not having a regular cycle. There obviously is. Or that if you've got some sort of condition, let's say like PCOS or endometriosis or really bad cramps, or your hormones are just not balanced right now and your mood swings are happening throughout your cycle, there's lots of reasons that birth control might be considered. But what happens when they put you on birth control is that then everybody just ignores what the issue is. And they just say, well, either birth control should fix it later, which it usually doesn't, or we'll just deal with this later when you're ready to get pregnant. I just don't like that approach. I think that it's on us to take more responsibility for our overall health and our hormones and be proactive now and not push that ball down the road for later, right? So if your cycles are not regular, we need to ask ourselves why. We need to investigate and look at your hormones, and we need to start to be proactive about how we're going to address that. If you've got a hormonal condition like PCOS or endometriosis or something else, then let's treat that now. Let's treat that appropriately instead of continually just pushing it off till later and later, and then we have a bigger problem because it's been ignored for all this time. The other thing that I think we need to consider is, does your OB have other options to support you if you're seeking out support and care for these conditions? And the answer is typically going to be no. Your OB, first and foremost, doesn't have other options and typically doesn't also have the time to support you and manage your condition, which is also why they put you on birth control, because it's just an easy thing to do. But birth control does come with side effects. And the first piece that I think is really important for us to understand when we're put on birth control is that it's impossible to know what your body's natural hormone levels are when you're using birth control. So you can't really test anything at that time. And if you want to get pregnant in the future, that's something we need to understand, right? I've also heard many times with my OB, I talked to them, I said I want to get pregnant. They said, well, your hormones are off because you've got whatever condition, so let's put you on birth control. But isn't your goal to get pregnant? So why would we put you on birth control right now? We want to regulate those issues. So I want you all to think critically when someone makes that suggestion. I'm not saying that there's no place for birth control, but I'm saying that most of you have been put on it prematurely or unnecessarily because they don't have another option for you. But a natural fertility expert, someone who can naturally impact your hormones and address any reproductive issue like myself, we have other resources, and you deserve other resources and a more comprehensive approach to address these issues. As well, if you are using hormonal birth control to get a period, then it doesn't mean that your body is actually producing those hormones in the right ratios to have a healthy cycle. It's trying to influence your cycle instead of allowing your body to do that. And what happens when you're using this for an extended period of time? You have side effects. Two key side effects that we notice when women are using birth control is a decreased sex drive. I mean, doesn't that make sense if we're trying to control getting pregnant? Of course it does, but that's not ideal for you, and that's also not natural. Right? A 16, 17, 18-year-old woman who is having their hormones shifting, or even into your 20s, should have a healthy sex drive. Additionally, the other thing that happens that's very, very common with extended use of birth control is vaginal dryness. That's not normal. The reason why that's happening is because your hormones are not functioning properly. And as a result, your body is not producing the cervical mucus that it should at the appropriate times of the cycle. So these are side effects that we do not want to achieve. And on top of that, when you come off birth control, it's much harder and takes much longer to improve your sex drive and improve your cervical mucus and vaginal dryness so that you don't have those issues. Sometimes we can't even change those if you've been on birth control for an extended period of time. And those are just some of the side effects. Actually, other side effects that you can experience if you've been on birth control, and certainly the longer that you're on it, the more these side effects can occur, is headaches, spotting, so abnormal menstrual spotting outside of your menstrual bleed, breast soreness or tenderness, constipation, bloating, yeast infections. I often talk to those members of my Hope Coaching Program about candida and yeast overgrowth. And one of the main things that we test for in the beginning is actually, do you have candida? And if you do, let's detox from it. Let's address that. Well, hormonal birth control, especially the pill, may dramatically affect your gut flora, right? The bacteria in your intestines. And this happens over time. And what can absolutely happen when that occurs is that it leads to a gut imbalance and can cause you to have a candida overgrowth because your good gut bacteria has diminished significantly. That will also impact your hormones. We don't want that. It's not a good idea. And this is exactly why so many couples in my program, when they actually detox from candida overgrowth, they get pregnant very quickly thereafter. So that is another thing. Nutrient deficiencies. We often see this occur as well when you're on birth control. Weight gain. We already talked about low libido, but I think it's really important to mention that, as well as decreased cervical mucus or vaginal dryness, again, because those are things that you're going to notice very, very quickly. Mood swings and acne. These are all reasons why I don't like for you to be on birth control. And these are all side effects that can occur. And so what happens when you've been on birth control for an extended period of time and you're having these side effects? Well, it means that when you do get off of it and you want to get pregnant, it's going to be more difficult and it's going to take you more time to conceive. So I want to reiterate that getting on birth control and taking the pill is not the only way to balance your hormones and address reproductive issues. And if you can seek out the support, an integrative approach, a functional approach, and the proper approach, in my opinion, then you're going to have more balanced hormones, you're going to be able to live a healthier life, and it's going to be much easier for you to conceive later on. But what do you do if you have been on the pill and you want to get off of it, or you just got off of it? How do you move forward? How much time do you need? Well, I want as much time as you can give, first and foremost. So if you know that you want to get pregnant in 6 months or a year and you've been on or are on birth control right now, let's have you stop as soon as possible so that we can start to give your body a chance to balance out, to regulate, and get the support that it needs. But how much time it's going to take after you stop really will depend on you as an individual and your history, your hormones, your reproductive function, and your health. These are all things that need to be accounted for when we are determining how much time we need to give ourselves. But the rule of thumb is the more time you can give somebody, the better off they're going to be and the easier it is going to be. I will say you will probably need a minimum of 3 months, and it could be upwards of a year before you can regulate and take care of some of these things. Let's just think about this logically. Let's just say taking birth control did impact your gut flora and you did or do have candida. A detox for candida takes a minimum of 2 months, right? Then we need to look at your hormones and address any hormonal imbalances. This all just takes time. And this is why it can take anywhere from 3 months, upwards of a year, and sometimes more. I also think it's important that we don't make this process stressful. If you're thinking you're going to come off the pill and then a month later you're going to be pregnant, that is not something that I often see. So I want you to give yourself time, and with that time comes a reduction in stress. If you give yourself time to make the necessary changes, then you're going to be allowing yourself to not be stressed out about that process as well. Because if you are stressed, it's going to make the whole process of trying to conceive more difficult, and it makes it more difficult to regulate your hormones and manage the situation after you've come off of birth control. I hope this information was a good first step for you to help you get started. If you are serious about getting pregnant, the 7 steps to empower your fertility guide is going to give you awesome information to get you started. And it includes fertility approved grocery list, a supplement protocol that works, and lab work and testing resources to understand your hormones and whatever is not allowing you to get pregnant, and so much more. And it's free, and you can get it right now with the link in the description below. I'm also going to leave you with this video now where I share 6 tips about when to try to get pregnant. Until the next video, stay fertile.